What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, we'll break down what's going on with Tesla stock, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there as I break down the technicals, talk about what data is going to be affecting the markets, what news is coming out, and also some very big things for Tesla, which are going to likely help this thing pump over the next couple of trading days, in my opinion. But before I break anything down about what's going on with Tesla stock, before I talk about all this news that's coming out and what the technicals are suggesting for my price predictions, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla was up 1.25% for the day on Friday, holding up quite nicely. And the real question is, how will Tesla move going forward? But first, we need to look at what's happening to the market and how it may dictate Tesla first. So for the market, there's not really any major pieces of data coming out for Monday. It's going to be very, very quiet. Now, there's more data coming out involving businesses and industrial production for Tuesday. But overall, the data is not going to be that crazy as we approach the next FOMC meeting in a little bit over a week from now. So the biggest thing coming out for data is going to be FOMC by next week. And for now, the focus is going to be shifted for earnings for this week in particular. So for Monday, there's not much going on before the market opens. We only have one bank reporting. But then after the market closes, we have First Bank and just a couple of other banks coming out for earnings. This is going to be very important for the markets. Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be the two most significant days of the week for the market in terms of earnings, because we have Bank of America, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley, PNC, and just a couple of others on Tuesday morning. But for Wednesday, things get real as we have Goldman Sachs, we have Ally Bank, we have IBM and Tesla and Netflix all after the market closes on Wednesday too. That's going to be very, very big for the entire stock market, especially Tesla. It's going to be a big one on millions of people's eyes. Make sure you're ready for that. Now, with that said, approaching earnings, you have to remember that Tesla has a tendency of pumping approaching the big dates, and we tend to see a lot more price action, a lot more eyes on Tesla as it approaches the big event. Now, when there's hype associated with earnings, because some of these big analysts from Morgan Stanley came out and they're expecting Tesla to beat EPS by at least 6%. That is some good news so far. And we saw Tesla hold up quite nicely relative to the market on Friday as a result of that. But now there's some news that just came out yesterday, and that is Tesla completing the first Cybertruck after years of delay. This is very, very bullish news. This is very, very awesome. And for the longer term, this is amazing, amazing news for the company going forward. Tesla has kept its word on the Cybertruck. It is real. It is out. It's not just a prototype, but this is going to be like the first step for them to really get it open for production. They're once again getting ready for this. I don't consider it just a prototype is what I'm trying to say. And it's very, very awesome stuff in Austin, Texas. Very, very awesome. After all these delays, it's finally here, and I can't wait for what's about to happen. It's very futuristic looking. Elon Musk said it's going to be the best car they've ever made. And once again, you can't forget, that it has that unbreakable armor glass, and they're going to continue to improve the vehicle as time progresses. It's very heavy, very powerful, and I can't wait for what else is to come. Right over here, this is what Tesla tweeted. The first Cybertruck was built in Giga, Texas, and you could see the entire crew right over here. So I want to give credit to the entire Tesla team. You guys have done an amazing job. I'm very proud of everyone out there that is involved, and I can't wait for what's about to happen. Now, Elon Musk also said in May that Tesla is going to be aiming for about 250,000 Cybertrucks per year. So very, very awesome stuff. Now, anyways, looking at some more data that's very important is we got some good news for the Model X listings. They're dropping pretty hard as we're starting to see more sales coming in for Tesla for the month of July, and more sales are continuing to pour in for Tesla. Now, the Model Y did see inventories go up just a little bit. We did see the other ones slightly go up, but it's not really that bad as they're maintaining these low levels quite nicely. This tells me that right now, in the current time, this is the most up-to-date data you could probably find out there. Tesla is still showing signs of high demand here in the USA, as we saw a big surge in July numbers for registrations for the entire EV sector. I reported this just a couple of days ago. Things are still looking good for Tesla, but we're going to see what happens to their guidance moving forward and what Elon Musk and the team announces for the future of the company. Because don't forget, we are still in a higher than a normal interest rate environment compared to before. And this entire situation could change things for Tesla. We're going to have to wait and see what happens after earnings. But for now, at the time I'm recording this, things are still looking good for them, looking at these inventory levels. Now, what's good about Tesla's volume is also going up from a technical standpoint. Volume was 90 million just a couple of days ago. Then it went up to 98 million, then 110 million. Now it's at 120 million, starting to go up and up and up. We're starting to see the aggressive buyers stepping in again, the FOMO, the hype before earnings. And now that the Cybertruck is out, the first one was released. That is going to be very, very awesome for them, as more buyers and investors should be stepping in. To add on to this, the price price ratio is on this nice uptrend. You could see it came down just a little bit as Tesla was dipping and underperforming compared to the market. And as of recent, it's starting to curl up again, which tells us Tesla is starting to outperform the market once again. You can remember that Tesla closed green on Friday, despite the fact that the Nasdaq, the SPX, SPY, and etc. These things closed very flat. It's a little bit in the red when being flat, but it's very important to note Tesla got a green close. Tesla's outperforming the market, and there's a lot of eyes on it. Citigroup just came out a couple of days ago, and they said they're very neutral on Tesla, which is still pretty decent. Not really that big of a deal in my eyes because they tend to be very biased historically. But we also saw other analysts from JP Morgan come out and say that they're very bullish on Tesla. Morgan Stanley also said the same thing a couple of days ago. And we saw another analyst say that they're very excited about earnings from JP Morgan, but they are a little bit concerned about the margins. So we're going to be watching those very carefully for their earnings. Historically, Tesla tends to beat on earnings, or at least meet them. I think during the last one, they came very close, but they do tend to beat on earnings the large majority of the time. I'm very excited for this one coming out, but don't forget, okay, we do have some things we're concerned about. That's going to be the margins. We need to see what Tesla says about them, and we have to watch for what their outlook is for the next few months. To add on to this, from a seasonality basis, Tesla tends to actually be a little bit weak in July. They're only green about 50% of the time historically. June tends to be a lot stronger, and so far for the month of July, Tesla has been holding up very nicely, pumping for the majority of the month. So the real question is, will this go back to normal, like most Julys where Tesla tends to just be green only 50% of the time? And if that is the case, could earnings be the thing that causes that? Could earnings be the thing that causes Tesla to start slowing down? Or will something unexpected happen, and will Tesla just continue to pump very, very nicely after earnings? That is up to us to decide. That's up to Tesla to decide, and the market and etc. But we're going to find out based off how it does. But just know historically, we tend to not be as strong in July as we are in June. That's what tends to happen. Now, Mondays tend to be a strong day for Tesla. They're green about 53% of the time historically. And on Tuesdays, they're green about 51% of the time. That's a good sign for Tesla. I am leaning more bullish because of that, but it's not just that solely. It's going to be other factors I'm going to discuss in a few minutes. They tend to do very well during the second hour of the trading day and also during the fourth hour of the trading day. So watch those hours very specifically. Tesla tends to do a lot better during those time frames. To add on to this, I just want to mention that the short interest on Tesla has been curling up a little bit. We saw about 36 million Tesla shares shorted as of Friday, and we are seeing a little bit more shorts piling in. Now, if Tesla does pump more and more and more, we're going to see even more shorts pile in. That's what they tend to do right before earnings. So be ready for that. This could lead to a big short squeeze after earnings comes out, or it could lead to the opposite, right? A bigger drop afterwards, as even more shorts would be incentivized to come in after some bad news, right? Just hypothetically, just be well aware of this. This is going to lead to an increase in volatility for Tesla as we approach earnings, and also like after earnings as well. So watch all this very carefully. This is all very important to note. Now let's talk about Tesla, what's going on with the share price. I want to note to you all that I'm leaning a little bit more bearish on SPY and the QQQ. I think the market's looking a little bit weaker, but for Tesla, I think overall it's holding up very nicely. It has some relative strength. And I think with the Cybertruck rolling out, there's a good chance that Tesla's going to continue to outperform the market and try to push up quite nicely. Historically, more than 80% of the time, Tesla tends to pump approaching earnings. We tend to see a big surge in volume, and that is so far what's starting to happen. If you look at Tesla, it's been pumping for the last couple of days a little bit. We got a very nice pump on Friday before it cooled off with the market, but Tesla managed to close green despite the market being red. That is a sign that there are buyers stepping in, the volume is coming back, and Tesla's looking quite nice. Now, we also have this cup and handle-like structure on Tesla, and I do believe the odds favor upside. But just to be safe, I'm going to go over both possibilities just so you guys are well aware of what could happen. So for the bears out there, I know it's unlikely, but the bears are going to argue that, oh, the market's going to cool off. Tesla should cool off too. And, if you want to see that happen, if we break below 280 and then 278, then there's a good chance it's going to retrace to about 275. Just hypothetically, right? I just want you guys to be prepared for that just in case. And if you're really bullish on Tesla, you want to see it break above 285 as your confirmation. So get above this like 282 area, then you're going to be watching 285. If that breaks, it's going to go flying into the 290s in my opinion if it's very, very strong during that time frame. And overall, that's going to be a very bullish signal if Tesla could get a nice break above 285. And I do believe the odds favor that because of the Cybertruck. But what am I predicting on Tesla? What is my actual prediction, right? I just gave you guys both cases. I predict Tesla's going to likely try to hold up quite nicely. Now, what does concern me is there is this bearish divergence developing. But that does not mean that Tesla has to start retracing yet. Please be aware of that. What this tells us is maybe Tesla pumps more and more and more, and if this bearish divergence is still present, then it could lead to a retracement later on, maybe after earnings, right? That is what seems very possible. I just want to note that. But it's not a guarantee, right? It could try to invalidate this too if it does try to pump more. But what am I predicting for tomorrow specifically? I think tomorrow we might see Tesla kind of cool off during the pre-market, then start pumping because of the Cybertruck release. I think there's going to be a lot of hype associated with that. That is some very bullish news in my opinion, at least for the longer term. And on top of that, there's going to be the earnings hype. Lots of buyers stepping in again. I think Tesla's going to outperform the market and get another green day for tomorrow. And I think Tesla's going to try to pump as the day goes on to retest 285 or so. It could even try to break 285. If that happens, you're going to be watching 287.5 to 288.5, the entire zone right there. If it manages to make its way all the way up there, it could see some tougher resistance around 290 next, but just be very careful at these levels. Now, I predict, and what my prediction for Tesla would be over the next 3 days is I think Tesla's going to follow the trend. And I think approaching earnings. So earnings is going to be on Wednesday after the market closes. I think Tesla's going to pump all the way up to at least 295. I have a gut feeling it's going to try to make a very nice move because of all this bullish news that just came out, the hype because of many investors who are pumping Tesla and saying it has some good potential, and also because of all of Tesla's outperformances and some bullish signals that keep on developing. The PPO is looking quite nice. It's still wide open, and there's nothing really bearish looking about this chart for now from a technical standpoint. So I'm going to be watching 295 to 300, this entire zone. I think Tesla's going to try to make it up there right before earnings. But my only concern about this would be the whole market, because the market could try to be some weight on Tesla. It could lead to more baggage for it because the market is going to likely retrace, most likely in my opinion. So I think Tesla's going to outperform the market, try to pump while the market starts to slow down. Now I'm going to talk about the market very briefly and talk about why I think the market may slow down while Tesla tries to pump anyways. So for the market, I just want to mention that when we zoom out of our charts, I think my chart went really far back. Hold on, give me 1 second. There was a bearish divergence basically developing on SPY. It's very important that we note this because the way the market moves has a very big effect on many different stocks out there, especially if you want to watch Nvda and many others, if you're watching SPY and the QQQ. So my chart went all the way back. I'm very sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 minute. When we look at these charts, okay, on the 4-hour time frame on SPY, we have this bearish divergence, right over here on the MACD. You can see it quite clearly. It's also on the RSI. And we're about to get a bearish cross on the PPO right here. So we're starting to see the market look like it kind of pumped very hard without getting much of a retracement. And when that happens, the market tends to retrace no matter how bullish the market is. That is completely normal. So what do I think is very likely? Here's my prediction, okay? I believe that it's very likely SPY is going to make its way down to fill some of these gaps down here. So we're going to be watching this 446 area very, very carefully. And I think that if it breaks below 448, there's a very good chance it's going to end up doing that. And I believe we're going to come down to fill this gap around 446. If that fails us, you're going to be watching this 443 level next. Now, if you want to be bullish on SPY, you need to see it break above 452.5, and it's going to start flying into the mid 450s after that. So we're going to be watching these levels very carefully. My gut tells me we're going to see this thing retrace and start filling these gaps, looking at the PPO and the loss of momentum so far. I'm leaning more bearish in that direction for the time being. So just to be safe, make sure you guys are aware of this. I just want to make this as clear as possible. Now, to add on to this, I also want to mention that for the triple Q, we're going to be watching something very similar. We're losing some momentum right here on the PPO, and we're likely going to see a retracement. So we're going to be watching this unfilled gap down here around this 373 area. If you want to be bullish, you have to watch it break above 383. If it breaks that, it could turn bullish, but I'm not leaning in that direction. I think we're losing momentum, and it's kind of overbought. I know the RSI is not the best way of solely looking at overbought levels, because what goes up could still go higher, right? But I just want to mention that the RSI being overbought correlated with us getting this loss of momentum on the PPO suggests to me that we're likely going to see a retracement. So we have to look at that correlation. Also, our stochastic is showing the same signal. We're likely going to see this thing retrace down to fill this gap around this 373 area. And for confirmation, watch a break below 378 and 375. And I'm leaning more bearish on the QQQ. I went over the bullish case if it breaks like 383, but I don't really think that's going to happen. Apple looks very choppy and sideways, so I think there's a good chance it's just going to remain in this trend, but it's going to be retesting this 50 EMA around this 189 zone. If that breaks, it's going to sink lower to like 188.5, 187.5, and etc. But like I said before, not really counting on it to retrace too hard until we get confirmation. For Nvidia, we're about to get a bearish cross on the PPO. My gut is telling me that Nvidia is going to get a very nice bounce in the future. Okay, in the future, it's going to get a nice bounce, like approaching $500 sometime in August. But before it goes up to 500, I think there could be a little bit more downside. As you can tell, it's trying to base around this like 50 EMA quite often. It's been doing this many, many times for like the last couple of weeks. You can see like right here. Let me just show you this like bounce zone right here. So like starting when it got this break above our 50. So it was below the 50, right? It bounced off of it. It bounced off of it, came a little bit below it, then it bounced off of it. It bounced off of it. Then it got a nice break to the upside. Then it's coming down again. So if it does retrace more, we're going to be watching it get close to this. So as time progresses, the 50 EMA is going to be trending upwards like this. This yellow line is going to go higher. So it's going to be somewhere in like the 440s is where it could be like going before it tries to get a real bounce. But just to be safe, it did try to bounce off 450 before. So that's going to be our major support zone for the time being. I think it may retest 450 and try to bounce, or it could drop a little bit lower, below 450, try to fill this gap down here on like this 441 area. We could see the 440s first and then a bounce afterwards. I'm going to be leaning somewhere in that direction. So either a little bit more downside than it bounces, or it could try to bounce off 450. I'm leaning more towards it just like dropping more around the 440s and then trying to bounce. And that's what I think is very likely for Nvidia. But 500 could come as we approach August because of those big orders that were made. For Microsoft, I'm leaning direction of this thing coming down to fill this gap around this 442 level. 342 level, and then it tries to bounce afterwards. If you want to be bullish on this, you want to watch this thing break and hold above 350. I think it's going to come down to 342 first and then try to bounce. That's the direction I'm leaning in. For AMD, I'm more bullish on AMD overall, but I think it could retrace first to like 114. But if it could hold above 120, we're going to be watching this 125 imbalance, which I think is going to get filled in the future. But I'm leaning in the direction that this thing is going to retrace to about 114 or so, maybe a little bit lower, and retest the 50 before it tries to make a bigger move. The Nasdaq's also looking a little bit more bearish to me. I mean, we got this bearish divergence on our MACD, also on the RSI, and simultaneously we have these unfilled gaps down here. So I think it's going to try to fill at least one of them, if not the second one. So it looks like we got a nice rejection candle after that bearish trend developed, and our PPO is starting to cross. This is suggesting we're going to see a little bit of a retracement about this very low 14,000 level, if not the very high 13,000s very soon. For SPX, it's basically the same thing. We got this nice rejection as well. We're losing some momentum on our stochastic, and we're likely going to see retracement about 4473, if not lower than that. I'm leaning more in that direction. Another reason why I'm saying this is because the dollar had a bullish looking signal on the PPO. It's about to get this bullish cross finally after many, many weeks. I mean, it's been a while since we saw this thing drop. For the past week, it's been looking super bearish, dropping and dropping and dropping. That is not healthy for it. It tends to bounce if it drops this hard. And the reason why it was dropping had a lot to do with monetary policy, what was happening globally, and also because the market was continuing to pump thanks to it, right? So you now have to look at this in a way where it looks like it's going to bounce soon. If it does come up to this imbalance around 101, that's going to be bearish for the stock market. So the dollar bouncing is going to be bearish because it's going to attract investors in a different direction. For that reason, okay, that's another signal of downside potentially for the stock market, and the dollar is starting to suggest that. For Coinbase, I'm more bullish on Coinbase. I think it's going to squeeze in the future, but it may retrace down to like this 100 level first, may start to continue to cool off. We also have this imbalance down at 85. It breaks below 95, watch 90, then 85 after that. So watch these levels very carefully. I actually have some very specific levels on Coinbase because I was trading this not too long ago. I was scalping it basically. If it breaks below 100, I think it's going to test 100. You're going to be watching 97.5 to 98, then 95, 93, then 90 as our supports. And if 90 fails, it's going to come all the way down to this imbalance around this 85 level. Now, I do think there could be some downside coming for it, but it could always squeeze in the future anyways. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about before I talk about Tesla again is going to be Amazon. Amazon's losing momentum right now, but it got a nice break out of this channel it was stuck in for many, many, many weeks. If you look at Amazon, it was just stuck going sideways for a very long time, and it finally got a breakout. So that picked the direction we were looking at. It still looks quite nice. Now for Amazon, it looks like it may retrace to about this 132 level, if not a little bit lower. Maybe 130.74 could be retested before it tries to bounce again. But it is looking like it's losing some momentum, and we may see a slowdown looking at the current trend. Same thing on Meta. I mean, it came down to this like 307 area, and on the 4-hour time frame, it likes to retest this 50 EMA many times. So you can actually see it like this. Just looking at it, you could see it had a tendency of just touching this yellow line, the 50 EMA, over and over and over again. So it's currently going to be very close to the low 300s by the time we do get closer to it, in my opinion, because this is still trending upwards. So by tomorrow and beyond, maybe a little bit higher into like the lower 300s. So for Meta, we're going to be watching 307. If that fails, watch 305 and potentially 303. If you're bullish, watch 310, 312, and 316. What do I think is going to happen? I think it's going to try to bounce a little bit, retest 310 or so, and then start to slow down. We have this bearish cross in the PPO, which suggests we may retest 307. And I think it's going to come all the way down to at least 305. I'm leaning a little bit more bearish thanks to the market. So that's what I'm seeing for Meta. But I do believe it's going to bounce later on. I don't think it's going to crash. I just think a very healthy retracement is fine before this thing tries to bounce. So for most stocks, I'm seeing potential downside. I think the market is due for a slight slowdown. And I think that may add baggage to Tesla, kind of slow it down a little bit. However, I think Tesla is going to prevail and still outperform the market despite that. We're going to see some buyers step in. Now, just to be safe, okay, I am leaning more bullish. I am predicting Tesla's going to make its way up to at least the 290s. 295 to 300 is quite likely to, in my opinion. But you want to watch for confirmation just to be safe, right? It's always important to be safe. So see if we could see Tesla break above 282, then 285. If that's the case, it's going to likely start pumping very nicely. Nice cup and handle has been forming. We have the Cybertruck coming out. I think the odds favor upside. I am leaning more bullish on Tesla, but always look at levels just to be safe. I went over both the bull and bear cases just to prepare you guys for anything. But just know I am leaning more bullish on Tesla. And I think we're going to see the 290s very soon. I think we're going to see a pump approaching earnings. That is what tends to happen historically. And that's what I want to see. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. Remain calm, cool, and collected. Do what you have to do and get ready for tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow during the pre-market. Tesla to the moon, and peace out.